Okay, so this video is now a few years later in 2000, and it's also very interesting. So here's they're interviewed by Barbara Walters. Same topic, obviously.
Police stayed with you all that day and the following day. You felt that you were under their protection because you didn't know where this killer might have been. But it turns out that they were really scrutinizing the two of you, that you were already suspects. Did you have any idea then that you were suspects?
No,
Not
not at all.
It was reported also, Mr. Ramsey, that shortly after you found your daughter's body, that you called the pilot of your plane to arrange a flight to Atlanta. Is that true?
I did. We had
He doesn't know what to say. He's pausing. Red
asked
flag.
to leave the house. Within minutes of that happening, the police took the house over. We had nowhere to go. Atlanta was our home. We lived in Atlanta for 25 years. That's where our family was. We wanted to go home.
Interesting. Going home when the daughter is dead. Okay. He's extremely calm. Extremely. No facial expression. He's also not breaking any eye contact with Barbara Walters. It's very typical for the culprits. First of all, it could be a sign of fear of being found out. Yeah, so they're staring essentially at the interviewer with big eyes. You could also interpret it as a sign of wanting to know if the lies are working. You know, observing the responses of the other person, seeing if the lies work, and if necessary, adjust the story. Another issue is it's hard to see in this video. It's low quality and it's very dark in here. The center of the eyes is very dark. So that might mean that the pupils are dilated. So it might mean that he is actually taking some drugs to calm down. And that might be an effect of this. Because he's extremely calm. Nothing is happening here.
During the day that your child was found, and in the days following, Mr. Ramsey, there were reports from the police that you didn't seem distraught. You weren't sobbing. You seemed stoic.
Completely stoic again. No blinking, no breaking of eye contact. You could also think of it like that. If you blink, you might miss important stuff if you're sort of on the spot and you're lying. You don't want to miss what the person on the other side is thinking, what kind of facial expressions the person is doing.
It was said you two really talked to each other. To them, this made it look as if you were guilty.
Pause, yeah, that's also suspicious.
And I find that unbelievable.
No sign of anger.
I've lost 2 children. And
he lost an earlier daughter from an earlier marriage. So there's death in the family and it doesn't seem to go away. And the wife also died later of ovarian cancer.
For someone to tell me that I didn't act right.
No blinking, yeah? No blinking. Always focused on the interviewer. Always. Red flag.
I don't accept.
There is the impression that from the two of you refused to cooperate with the police.
No, that is a media myth.
It's actually not a media myth. They weren't interviewed in the police department alone within the first 4 months. Because he's a rich guy and, you know, it's a political case.
We met with the police.
Very calm.
On the 26th. We met
and talked with them.
And talked with them.
But on their terms, that's the problem.
Talked with them for hours on the 27th. When they asked us to...
There was a little mouse shrug here. Very uncertain about this, yeah? Did you just see it on the previous frame?
Come to the police station. We said, you know, yeah, we want to keep working with you, but can't you come here? We can't go out. Pasty was in bed. Pasty was barely able to move.
Again, on their terms?
And all we asked was they come here. They said, well, no, we have paperwork at the police station we might need to get hold of.
Okay. On the 27th, a very good friend of yours, Mike Bondum, said to you, I think that you should hire lawyers.
Mike knew things that were going on that we didn't know. He knew that the police...
Very calm, no breaking of eye contact, no blinking. Okay, so this is red flag.
By that time, we're withholding JonBenet's body for burial. He also, based on his experience as a prosecutor...
Of course, you don't want to bury your child if you're looking for evidence. This is again a red flag. Red flag.
District attorney could see that the police were very quickly focusing on us.
Because there's an over 90% chance that the parents or someone in the family committed the crime of the little daughter.
As the killers.
Your lawyers advised you then not to submit to police questions. Why not? People say, wouldn't you have wanted to tell them everything?
Well, I don't recall that our lawyers told us that.
Well, it was the case.
Uh,
He's nodding at this moment, so meaning that he can recall it.
perfectly willing and anxious
No sign of anxiousness.
to work with the police to find the killer. We had a higher priority at that point, and that was to bury our daughter.
That's an odd priority.
But it would, in fact, be 4 months before the Ramseys would sit down with detectives for formal interrogation. Why didn't you take a lie detector test?
No one
It's
ever
another-
asked us
Really?
to take the lie detector test.
Misspoke here. Lie detector test. Funny.
Police never asked you to take a lie detector
No.
test?
No.
I was asked during my interview with Steve Thomas a hypothetical
the
questions.
policemen,
One of the policemen that investigated this murder. He said, if I were to ask you to take a lie detector test, what would you say? I said, I would be offended. That's what I would say.
I mean, it was really strange. I saw some of these tapes, especially the interview with Patsy, and these hypothetical questions were complete garbage. So that was really useless.
I wasn't interested in proving my innocence at that point. That
We were
was
frightened.
a non-issue.
There's a murder loose.
Mr. Ramsey, would you now take a lie detector
I
test?
would, certainly.
Hesitating, good.
Would you, Mrs. Ramsey?
Yes, I would take a lie detector test.
Misspoke again, complicated word.
Yes.
And she's shaking her head. Incongruent, eyes wide open, fear. Yeah?
When you
I guess she should have taken some of the drugs to be as calm as her husband.
realized that you two were the prime suspects, what did you think? What did you feel? What did you say?
But we were outraged. We were shocked. How could they think that?
No sign of outrage in his
Mr. Ramsey,
face.
the
No
police
anger.
officer that day, Linda Arndts, said on this very program that when you put your daughter's body down, you looked straight into her eyes.
His face was just inches from mine.
And Linda Arndts said she
There's a lot of stuff going on in her face. Looking into distance and trying to memorize something in the past, yeah? The eyes are wide open, so she feels the terror, the fear from back then. So unlike the parents, she feels it all, yeah? And she's not the mother or the father. So it's very believable what she's saying.
that the killer was in the house and she was afraid.
Well, the question I would ask Linda Arndts, has she ever looked before in the eyes of a father who has just been told his 6-year-old daughter is dead,
Interesting. Completely calm.
lying there on the floor in front of him? I don't know what I looked like. I'm sure I was in agony.
Very passive here at this moment. He destroyed the crime scene. He carried her upstairs, the dead girl. He asked the question, is she dead? This was the first question, and she was dead for hours. So she would be completely rigid. She had strangulation marks on her neck, and she had a huge head wound. So it's a really foolish question, to ask if she's dead.
Lying there on the floor in front of him. I don't know what I looked like. I'm sure I was in agony. I'm sure
No blinking.
Linda Arndts' ability to look in someone's eyes and determine they were a killer is a remarkable talent.
It's not a remarkable talent. It's basically built in our DNA. We can read people.
You just can't believe it. I mean, we're suffering from having lost our child. And then for someone to accuse you, it's just, you can't believe that would happen.
Yeah, stutter here. Let's look briefly at Linda Arndts' interview. She was a police officer on the scene.
Linda Place.
And I see John Ramsey carrying JonBenet up the last 3 steps from the basement. And my mind exploded. And everything that I had noted that morning that stuck out instantly made sense. And JonBenet was clearly dead. Then she's been dead for a while. I ordered him to put JonBenet down. I knelt next to her and I leaned down to her face. And John leaned down opposite me. And his face was just inches from mine. And we had a nonverbal exchange that I will never forget.
So here's a terror in her face, yeah? So teary eyes, eyes wide open, fear, terror. Yeah, you don't see this in the parents.
And he asked if she was dead.
Obviously she was dead. And asking if she's dead is either completely foolish, because everyone would recognize a dead thing, or he's a killer.
And I said, yes, she's dead. And I told him to go back to the room and to dial 911. And as we looked at each other, I remember, and I wore a shoulder holster, tucking my gun right next to me and consciously counting, I've got 18 bullets.
Why did you do that?
Because I didn't know if we'd all be alive when people showed up. I knew what happened.
Okay, let's look briefly also at the brother. He lived very secluded, and then 20 years later, he gave his interview, interviewed by Dr. Phil.
I remember the casket was small and her eyes were closed. I think one of her eyes was a little bit like droopy or something. I thought that was weird.
How did you feel seeing her?
A lot of sadness. I don't think I really fully grasped, like, after this, I won't see her again. The next thing I remember, my dad came and told me, JonBenet is in heaven now, and he started crying. Then I started crying.
Did you hit your sister over the head with a baseball bat or a flashlight?
Absolutely not.
Burke says he stayed in bed for hours as dozens of investigators and loved ones swarmed the house.
Critics would say you weren't curious because you already knew. He didn't have to get up and check because he knew exactly what had happened.
I mean, I didn't know if there was some bad guy downstairs and my dad was chasing him.
After that interview, quite a few people said his smiling is weird. Yeah, when he talks about, his sister being killed. However, this is not duping delight. Yeah. This is a forced smile. It looks one of these smiles the little beauty pageants would put on, and it might have been, trained on the kids from early age. It's also just really an awkward smile because he is obviously socially very awkward, and his forced smile, that's one way of dealing with the situation. He's not looking down at all. There's no sign of guilt. It's actually quite open, his face. He's not hiding anything. He's not turning away. He's not staring. He's not looking down. I don't think he has anything to do with it. He was 9 years old when the crime happened, so he was likely not strong enough to break the skull, and he would also be too young for a sexually motivated crime. So I think he has nothing to do with it. Okay, so in summary, there are a lot of red flags. My personal favorite theory is that the parents did it, or they're covering up something, for example, sexual abuse. Likely they are actually the killers. Okay, I hope you liked the video and talk to you next time. Bye.